Hello and welcome to this demo video for the 360 staff appraisal. This is a remake of an old spreadsheet, and because this one does a lot more and it's slightly more complicated, what I've decided to do is break this video up into sections. So at the beginning of this video, you would have seen a kind of contents table, as it were, showing what times each section starts. So I'm going to start off with the general settings. There's normally settings on this first page, but in this case, there aren't any because I've moved them all to the settings tab. So this is where you'd start off. What you would do is you'd list all of the different categories. Now, these are when you're asking questions, you might ask questions about teamwork, or you might ask questions about productivity or communication or leadership, or whatever it is that you want to actually break your questions, whatever categories you want to break your questions down into. So this is the place where you would list the up to 12 different categories of questions that you can categorize the questions. That's where you enter those. And across the top here, this is where you can enter 10 different departments for your business, so whether it be finance or production or whatever it might be, you can enter the different departments, up to 10 of them. And then when doing so, obviously you don't want to enter any duplicates. When doing so, you effectively create this grid, as it were. And then what you can do on here is you can mark off any departments that do not require questions within that category. So effectively, so for example, if you had management, and you had management might do all the roles, but you might have someone in the warehouse, for example, who's not necessarily doing any networking. So you can then come to the warehouse networking and actually cross that off. Therefore, the networking questions, you will not do any for the warehouse. So that's the first thing to do, is to come mark off the particular departments who are not engaging in any of the different categories. Otherwise, there could be questions for all those different people in all those different categories. The next thing to do is to set up the dates. You can set up dates for appraisals. So you can set up 2 different appraisals. The reason why we use dates is just because it's easier than going, well, appraisal 1 and appraisal 2, and then what was 1 and what was 2. So you put the 2 dates in. When you're doing the first one, you can put 1 date in, do that appraisal, and if you want to compare it, the next time you do an appraisal, you can put the next date in. Once you've got 2 dates in and you want to replace it, then what you can do is you can save a copy of this. I'll show you in a minute how to replace data, but what you can do is you can save a copy if you want to keep an archive, and then to replace the older date with the new date, and then just go through and clear the data. I'll show you in a minute how to do that. Before we do that, you can then put in the contact person in the HR, their email address and contact number. This will just appear on the different forms that you send out to people to complete, so that they know how to get hold of you should they need to do that. You don't have to fill this in. If everybody who's sending these questionnaires to knows who you are, then you don't necessarily need that. But if you do, it's a useful place to put it, because it will appear on the questionnaires. Lastly, do you want to include self-appraisals in the overall score? Now, when you do an appraisal, it's going to give you a report like this, where it gives you the overall score for that person for that particular this appraisal and last appraisal. So here you've got self and others, but here you've got an overall score by category. So in these overall scores by category, do you actually want to include this person? Because sometimes you might get a person who thinks a lot of themselves, and no one else thinks much of them, and their score will then obviously inflate these ones. So you need to decide whether you want to include them in or not. This one here will show the difference between the two, but do you want to include them into these overall scores? If the answer is yes, then select yes, otherwise select no, and it'll only use others that are not the person appraising themselves. Once you set that up, you're ready to go. Let me just show you what happens. So you've got these 3 data tabs. If you want to change these dates, you've got the 3 data tabs. And as you can see, there will be a video later on showing you how to complete these 3. But what effectively you've got is each of these has got a date column, where you've got ones from January and December. Here you've got the date column January and December, and here you've got the date column January and December. So what happens once you've filled in January and December and you want to do another one? I mean, you wouldn't do another one in January straight after, but let's just say you did, and you wanted to do one in January 2024. So now if you come and change that, then this becomes the new date, and that becomes the previous date. So what you want to do is you want to now go and clear out all the data from the previous ones. So if you go back to these three tabs, you'll see now they've got the ones with the red columns. If you need to sort by date, you can sort by the date column, get them all to the top, and then just simply come here, right-click, clear contents. And once you've cleared those contents, you can resort by date again. Now you've got all the last ones at the top, and now you can fill in the next lot of dates underneath that. You can do exactly the same for the appraisals required. You can do exactly the same for the appraisal results. Just remember to go right across and clear out everything underneath all those headers. And then right-click, clear contents, and so on and so forth. So what you can do is, once you've cleared all of those ones out, what you can do then, the last thing is, if you have a look at these questions, there's the first of the 12th, and here's one. That one says it's wrong because that is the old one. So now you can also change that date to the new one, and then you can reset the questions for the new appraisal. So that's how you update from year to year. Once you've done 2 years, you can update that. And that explains the settings tab. This one, we don't need anything. And I've told you how to update the data, so we can move on to the next stage. Okay, once you've done all the settings and you've set up the dates and which categories and things to include for each particular role, you can come and you can set up the 2 sets of questions. Now there are 2 question tabs, questions 1 and question 2. Each of them you'd select the respective date. So this would be for December, that would be for January, for your different appraisals. And once you've got this, the setup for the date, you can then type in up to 65 questions. Now, what you just need to keep in mind is the way that you word them. Each question, when it's created on the questionnaires, will start with a do you or does the person's name. So if someone's appraising me, it'll say does Richard, or do you if it's asking me the questions. So you want to kind of word them in a way that makes sense. So do you fully understand the job requirements, or does Richard fully understand the job requirements? You can see that they both match. The person then would have the option to select any one of these answers. Now, I know that does Richard understand the job requirements, strongly agree, doesn't necessarily exactly line up, but if you word it any other way, then you've got to type the question twice based on the person's name and all the rest of it. So I've just done it this way. Each question will start with do you or does so-and-so. So just keep that in mind when you're wording your questions, but then you only have to word them once, and it will do for either the self-valuation or the one that's done by someone else. You can then select the category. Those categories are the ones that you've entered on the settings tab all the way down there. Those are the categories that you've entered. So you can select a category for each of these different questions. And then, as you can see, this is where it shows the number of points given. Now, normally, strongly agree would be 5, agree 4, neutral 3, etc. But you can reverse it, because sometimes you might put a question in, for example, something that's a negative question. So if they strongly agree, does so-and-so fall asleep all the time at their desk, whatever it might be, if they say strongly agree, then you don't want to reward them for that. You want it to be the other way around. So if that is the case for a question, you can just simply tick this column to say reverse, and then you can see it reverses the points. So that's a reverse question. The other option is, if you've got a particular question that you're asking and you say, well, hold on a second, this question is actually 3 times as important as all the other ones, then what you can do is you can just put a 3 in there. And then, as you can see, it's multiplied the points by 3. So this one here, for getting a strongly disagree, will give 15 points, whereas normally a strongly agree would give 5 points, which means it holds 3 times the weight. So that would mean that this question becomes far more important to get right, and it holds more of the weight, which means that anyone who gets this question and anyone who gets the answer, which is a favorable answer, will score 3 times as many points for getting that one as opposed to one of the other ones. So you can set the weight and you can reverse it if you want to. If you want them all 1 to 5 and they're all kind of positive questions in the sense of, agree would be the best, then you can just simply leave those 2 columns blank and not fiddle with them. If you get what I'm saying and you want to then adjust them and adapt each question, you can do so, right, by either reversing it or putting in a weight. The other one is just an order. All this one is so that you can type these. If you want to change the order, I could go, for example, that's question 1. This down here is question 2. That's question 3. 3. This is question 2. This is question 4, etc. And then just sort smallest to largest, and you'll put them all in the order. So that's just to purely to sort the questions. Now, what you also have to remember is if, for example, this is a complete set of questions. So you've said on the settings that, for example, here, leadership, a workshop, we don't send them the leadership questions, but you still enter all the questions here for all 65. So you don't have to use all 65. As I've shown you here, I've used 60. But what would happen here is if I send this to someone who is actually appraising someone who's in the workshop, for example, and this says leadership no, then what would happen is these questions here under leadership would not be included in the ones that go out to someone who is appraising someone in the workshop. However, if the person being appraised is in management, for example, then it will include those ones. So you still put all the questions there, but the spreadsheet will then filter what it sends to the different people, depending on who's being appraised, what division they're in, and therefore or what department they're in, and therefore which of these categories need to be included. So as I said, you've got questions 1 and question 2. You can actually change them around. You can change the questions. You can add more leadership. So if you've got 10 leadership questions in the first appraisal, in the second appraisal, you can remove some of the leadership, change for something else. The spreadsheet will simply work out scores and put it down as percentage. So you can still compare last year to this year because the spreadsheet will know which one it is and put it down as a score, rather than saying, for example, this year you scored 8, last year you scored 12, and you go, well, that's great, but actually there's fewer questions, or whatever the case might be. So that's why it puts it as a percentage. So you list all your questions, select which category they're in, reverse it if you want to, weight it if you want to. You can use the order one as well, just to reorder the questions. And then these questions will appear on the sheet that you send out in the same order that they are here, except it will exclude any that are not relevant based on your settings. And if you've got those 2 correct, then what that means later on, I'll show you, is when you do an export to the other spreadsheet, in order to actually create a spreadsheet to send to each person to get them to answer the questions, it will run it through here and it'll pull the questions off here so that everybody getting these questions will get the same ones. There is one thing important. Once you start creating appraisals to send out, do not resort or edit this data. That's vitally important. You do not want to come here once you've sent out, once you've created these spreadsheets using the data export, which we'll get to later in the video. You don't want to come here and reorder these questions or change anything. The reason being is because when you send these out, the spreadsheet's going to come back with the answers in the respective place. So, for example, if you send it out to someone who's not doing leadership, you'll have all the answers, and then you'll have blank spaces, and then you'll have all the answers again. So if you resort it, you're going to have the wrong answers under the wrong questions, and it's going to cause chaos with your reporting. Alternatively, if you change any of these questions, you're not going to get like-for-like feedback, which isn't going to be correct for your report. So you can play around with this as much as you want to, but once you actually start sending out these appraisals, then do not adjust anything here. If you have to adjust something here, then any appraisals that you've sent out, you will need to redo, go through the process again, redo it, and send out the new appraisal. So I hope that that's clear. It's exactly the same for both of these sheets. Yeah, we can move on. Right, so now we've got to the point where we've set up the questions, we've done all the settings, and now we actually want to create a list of staff who need to be appraised, and also to create a list of the appraisals that are required for each staff member. So these three red tabs are where all the work is done. I'll get to the appraisal results in the next part of the video where we collect all the results. But to appraise different staff is relatively straightforward. You just simply add in the staff name, select their department, and then put the valuation date. So for example, here we've got Mr. Admin who's in the admin department. So we've got one for January, and then we've got again Mr. Admin in the admin department for the December appraisal. So those two will obviously compare, January being the last one, December being the current one, January the previous one, and it will compare the two. So you can have a staff member twice, provided they're in different years for the evaluation, and obviously put them down in the correct department. So what this will do then is it'll actually check to see it'll check to see which questions obviously are required because of the different department that they're in, but then it also checks between the two appraisals. So you've got 200 rows here, which means that you can have 200 staff potentially, but if there's only just one appraisal, you can't then have them combined with two. So that's why we have said if there's 100 staff, you can have two lots of appraisals, and you can compare one with the other. So as you add their names in here, it then gives you how many are planned for supervisor, peer, subordinate, etc. So how that works is on your appraisals required, you just simply duplicate that out. So for example, here I've got Mr. Admin. We're expecting an appraisal from a supervisor. You can put their email address and phone number in if you need to keep a record of these people's contact details. And then which category are they in? So I've said supervisor, 1st of Jan. And then I've got done another row for Mr. Admin, peer. So you could, in theory, have 3 or 4 rows for peer, 1 row for self, etc., 2 rows for supervisor, whoever it is that needs to actually do those. So you just list them one below the other. So you'll have a staff member numerous times. Here I've allowed for 2,000 different rows, which means obviously 10 appraisals per person in theory. But obviously you might have more for some and fewer for others. But you can then add in the number row, just simply duplicate that person down here. You can see Mr. Admin, the 3 supervisor, peer, self for that date, and then later on you'll see Mr. Admin for the next appraisal. So you just select the staff member, enter the person's name who's doing the appraisal, email, phone number, and select which category they're in and one of the dates. These 3 columns we can leave blank for now. I'll get back to these 3 in the next part of the video where I'll talk about collecting all of the data. So it's kind of like a project management type of thing where you can tick these off as you do them so that you know what you've done with each person. But the essential part for this part is just to simply list the people and then list the different appraisals required, just one below the other for each person. I will show you very quickly while we're waiting, if we're waiting for this data to come back, and let's just remove this date here so it won't recognize this row, it won't include that. So what will happen now when we go to appraisals required, you'll see there it will actually say there's entered result, we haven't received this back yet. So when you go to staff required, it says we're missing 1 from a client. We planned 1, we haven't received any, so it's 0. So this person's not ready for reporting. But obviously, once you get that data, and that's the wrong date, that flags up red because there are 2 of them, should be the 12th. So that one shows that this person is now here, which means that it's now ticked off, and it says that that person is ready to appraise. So these will update accordingly. This shows you supervisor, peer, how many you've planned, how many answer sets you've included. So that will be able to kind of project manage that you've got everything with all of that screen. It says ready for reporting. Then you are ready to start doing your reporting. So you just simply add the staff, select which department they're in, put down the date of the valuation, and then this one here, multiple rows per person, depending on how many valuations they need to be doing. If you've added these in and you realize that actually Mr. Admin now needs another one from another peer, you can just go down to the bottom select Mr. Admin, another peer, and then you can select peer over here, and you can select, say, for example, with that. And you can come and sort. So you can sort back into staff order A to Z again, and then you'll see Mr. Admin. There's another peer. This one's not in yet because you haven't received that data. So you go back, you can see now there's one missing. So that's how you just simply add a new appraisal that's required. If you want to remove one, if you don't get it back and you think, well, to no point, we're not going to send that to anybody else, we'll just keep what we've got. You can just simply come here, you can clear those contents, and you can sort back A to Z again for the staff, and then it's simply removed it. So that's these two tabs, staff to appraise and appraisals required, is what you use to set it up. That, as I said, I'll come back to in the project management tab. This data you'll collect from the spreadsheets coming back to you. So yeah, do watch the next stage as far as creating and managing those exported spreadsheets are concerned. Right, so here's the bit where I show you how to create these, the actual appraisals that you want to send to the people. That's on a different spreadsheet. So I want to show you how to create those and how to manage them once you've created or you've sent it off, whatever the case might be, so that you can keep track of what's been going on. What it all comes down to is this data export tab. This is where you select which one you want to create, and that then creates the information to copy and paste across. So I'm going to start off, but this one's not going to work. I'm going to show you why, and I'm going to show you what's going on, because I think it's important. So first of all, you do the appraisal date. So you've got the two dates of the two appraisals. So we want to do the most up-to-date appraisal, the most recent one. And then you can select who is the person being appraised. So let's just do Mrs. Management for now. I'll show you why. Now, when you click on the appraiser, there's nothing in there. It's a blank cell. So now you're probably wondering, well, why? Well, the reason is because this lookup here is actually a dynamic lookup. So because I've selected Mrs. Management from the 1st of December, it's checked and it said, well, actually, there aren't any more appraisals to do. So it's coming up as blank. So what I'm just going to do is I'm going to go back to the appraisal results because I've done it. It actually looks at this one here. It looks at the appraisal required. It checks all the, it'll check all the Mrs. Management ones. It'll check all of these. It'll say who's it actually doing. In fact, it won't. It'll check the dates. So the first, it'll check these ones because they're the ones in December. It'll say, okay, there should be a peer, subordinate, client. And then it checks these as well. If any dates are put in here, which we'll get to in a minute, then it won't bring it through. And these are all text, which means it's got the data. So as far as the spreadsheet's concerned, we've got everything from Mrs. Management. There aren't any more left. Therefore, there's no need to bring anything up in that drop-down list. So if I just go to the appraisals and I just break this for now, so I'll take that out. So it doesn't know about the client. When I go back to the appraisals, as we said before, it shows that that one's still required. So now when I go to that data export, because that one's still required, you'll see that one now appears in the drop-down list. So it is a dynamic thing. It'll check for what's still required. This is to prevent you from coming here and going, oh, which one was it I was doing again? And you can't remember which ones you've done. It'll actually remove them as soon as the spreadsheet thinks that you've done one of them. So if I select a client, you can see now that it says the exportable data is ready to export. So these have all gone green. So that's now valid. The other option is to select the self-appraisal. Now, if you select the self-appraisal, then it actually ignores this. You can see here, it tells you which one it's doing. It's doing the type of appraisal self, and it's doing the category, the management. Now, for various reasons, it's not checking about the self-appraisal on the initial one to check if it's a duplicate. And in this case, that's not actually being used. It's doing the self one for that person. So make sure you only tick that self when you actually want to do their own appraisal, because that kind of overrides everything. So if we leave that off for now, we do a client, you can see here, these two cells are telling you the categories management, and the type of appraisal we're doing is the client one. And it's for a client, and it's the person being appraised is Mrs. Management. So you can see there what's going on. And when you're happy with that, you can then copy this. And then if you go to the other spreadsheet, there's a box in there where you can import that data and you just say paste values, not normal paste. Normal paste will paste, that will lock the cells. It'll paste, try and paste formulas. It won't work because it's looking at the wrong cells, etc. You need to do paste values. Paste values means you're just pasting the data. You're not pasting the formatting and the formulas and the conditional formatting and all the rest of that stuff. You're literally just pasting the data, and that's what paste values means. So when you paste values, you'll see it says this question has not been completed. That means the person hasn't filled it in, but it gives you the appraisal date, the appraisee, the appraiser, the category, type, number of questions, and the contact details that you've put in for the, for yourself, to whoever the people need to come back to if there's a problem. So this now is set up. You can check. I go into the appraisal questions and just having a look. There are all the questions. There's the details. And this is what the person who you're sending this questionnaire will see. So what you can do, there's one other setting on this tab, and this is the include the video link. So what I'm going to do is the next stage of this video where I actually show how to fill in this appraisal questionnaire, I'm going to do as a video addressed to the person that you're sending this to. So I'm going to do the different video as if I'm talking to them, but I will include it in this video that you're watching now later on in the next section, so you can see what I'm telling them. But essentially, I'm going to make another video for them, which is just going to include that section that they need. And you can decide whether you want to leave it. So there it says click for a YouTube demo. They can click there. If you go in the settings and you say, well, actually, I'd rather they didn't see that demo for some reason or another, that's fine. If you uncheck that and you come back here, then it doesn't give that link. So you can choose whether or not to show that demo video. And as I said, it doesn't include this entire demo. It only includes the next stage, which is talking about this page in particular. So once they've completed this, they're going to go down and select all the different answers. You can see that in the next stage. Once they've completed, they're going to send this back to you. So when you send this, then you won't want them to see this page necessarily. If you trust them and that you don't mind, that's fair enough. But if you don't want to, then what you can do is you can right click and you can hide that. And you can protect the workbook. Now, if you protect the workbook and you put a password in there, please remember that, because it's almost impossible to break into this if you lock yourself out. So make sure you use a password that you can remember, and you can lock it, and then you can send this workbook to them. When they come back, when they send this back to you, then you can click on this again, type the password in to unlock it, and then right click on this tab and say unhide and select the settings tab. Now, once they've completed this page, then this section here, the gray section within the black border, not the green, but just the gray, you can copy that and you can come back to your spreadsheet and you can put into the appraisal results, you can right click and you can paste values. And when you paste the values, what that does is it will basically do this line as we had it before, client with all their answers in the correct columns, etc., ready for you to report on. And then when you go back to appraisals required, it will then tick it off as being done. So that's the overall process. Now, these three columns over here, once you've created it, so what I would suspect you're going to do is you're going to create this, you're going to then resave this file as for example, a client dash Mrs. Management or something like that, so that you know who that is for, because you need to make one of these forms for each person that you're getting to appraise. So once you've put the relevant data in, you're going to resave it as a person. I would suspect you'll have a folder somewhere where you save all of these files into. So when you then create this document for the first person and you save it, and then you set you've actually created the document, then you can come back in, you can use this as a little bit of a project management tool. You can say, for example, Mrs. Management for December client, you can say, yes, today I've created the appraisal. So now you know that you've done that appraisal. And as I said, once you've done this, it won't appear on the drop-down list on the data export. So then you can't go back and redo it again. Once you've sent it to the person, you can come back here if you want to, and you can say, well, I've sent it. As you can see, it's the same day because I'm doing it at the same time. That'll automatically put today's date in. So then you can see who you've sent when, and then when the person returns it obviously you'll put the data in, so this will mark off as a check, but you can come here and you can put the date returned if you want to. So these three columns aren't pivotal. They're not really pivotal in the use of the spreadsheet. It's not going to change the spreadsheet in any other way other than when you select a date here, it stops it from going through to the data export. But this is the important one. This means that you've got the data back. These three columns, you're welcome to use them for your own management of things. So you can come here and go, have I created something for that person? Yes, I have. If you're happy that you know what you're doing in the other folders and you don't need a management system, you can actually just leave these three blank and just completely ignore them. Once the data comes back, it'll override everything, and you've got it, and it carries on. So the spreadsheet doesn't rely on these three columns, but you can use them to monitor how far you are with each one of those things, should you wish to do that. So once you've got it back from the client and you've copied that row and you've pasted values into your data appraisal, you can update what you need to here. Once that ticks in place, and as far as the spreadsheet's concerned, that particular row is done and dusted, and it'll mark it off in the respective column over here, and you can then carry on. So yeah, that is the video, the section on how to actually create this and monitor this. What you can do is watch the next section, and as I said, the next section will be shot as if I'm talking to the person filling in the spreadsheet. So it won't contain anything else as far as you need to know, but just so that you see what I'm telling them in case they ask you any questions. And then you can move on to beyond that on the video onto the next sections. Yeah, see you soon. Hello, this is Richard from Spreadsheet Solutions. You received this spreadsheet from somebody in order to do a 360 staff appraisal, and I would like to just explain to you how it works. I'm the one who created the spreadsheet system, and so yeah, I just want to show you how this particular sheet works, so that you can fill it in correctly. You have more than likely received it with the company who sent it to you. Their business name should be below where it says appraisal questions. It should give you the appraisal date, which is for office use. That's just for them to know. You would probably be giving you the person who's being appraised, the appraisal done by, where your name should be in here, and your capacity, in other words, what your relationship is with the person who's being appraised. That should just be kind of information that's come through from their office side. You can just check that that's correct. If it's not addressed to you, you might have got the wrong one. The appraisal completion percentage, this will update as we go along and answer the questions. And then you've got some warnings down the side here if anything's incorrect, and you may or may not have some information of the person that you need to contact. The last thing that you would have is a click for YouTube demo video. This link may or may not be here, depending on the setup. Assuming the fact that you're watching this video, I would imagine that the link is there and you found it and you've clicked on it. So that is in fact this video. Yeah, so it really is simple. There's a whole bunch of questions, and you've just got to consider each of these questions with regard to the person that you're appraising, and then select one of these answers from strongly agree all the way down to don't know. So strongly agree, obviously, down to neutral, which means you're not quite sure what's you can't really agree or disagree with the answer. That's disagree towards the screen. Strongly disagree. And if you don't know, if you can't answer it accurately and you actually don't know what the answer is, and you can put in don't know. And if you select one of those answers for each one of these questions, as you can see, that percentage grows as we go down and we select all of the different answers. It really is as simple as that. If you try and type something else into here, it won't let you. So you just need to go through and select all the answers. Now, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I wouldn't recommend doing this, but I just want to show you what's going to happen once it's full, and I don't want to waste your time filling in each and every one of these answers. I wouldn't suggest doing copy and paste, because you might have an issue like I've just had there. And if you do normal paste, it's going to break the spreadsheet. So just go down and select each of these answers as you would in answering the different questions. And then as you can see, once you've finished, it says 100%, it says appraisal complete. And once you've got to that point of completing the appraisal, you can just save it and email it back to whoever it was that sent it to you. And that is all done. Thank you very much. All right, so once you've done all your appraisals, you've got them all back, you've entered all the data, and you are now ready to read the reports. I want to show you 3 of the green tabs. The data export one we've covered. I want to show you the dashboard, the appraisal, and the report. Now, the dashboard is one that you would you probably view the dashboard while you're actually collecting all the appraisals, because this one really just goes about, most of this is about, collecting the data, what's outstanding, all that kind of thing. There's a few alerts and warnings here. It's only really this one over here that gives a question count, but based on the number of the categories of all the questions. But this one would be something that you'd be viewing while you're busy collecting it. When all of this is green and all done and kind of completed from this point of view, then you'll be moving on to the appraisal for individuals and the report for the company. So let me just explain to you how the dashboard works. These down at the left-hand side here are all alerts and warnings. You'll see everything's okay, but let me go to the appraisal results and just remove that date, and I'll show you what happens. When you go to the dashboard, for example, first of all, it says there's one yellow warning on appraisal results. That means that there's some data missing. You could have a red warning here if the data is incorrect. So if we go to the appraisal results, let's just copy this and paste the word client into there, paste values. That turns red because it should be a date and it's not. So if you go to the dashboard, it now says one red alert. So that's what that means. It's just showing you on the different tabs, because a yellow or red alert that you need to address. There will be other warnings. So for example, here it says one staff still not ready for this current report, and it says one result still needs to be captured from the current report. That's because it can't read this row because that data is missing. Here it says that there's 80% of the people ready for the reporting, 100 from the last, and there's 94.1% of the results have been entered. So this is just like a kind of a slider that grows as you enter more and more results, and you get more people ready for reporting. This shows you the number of people. So from the supervisors, we've got 8 completed, or 10 from peers, or 3 from client. Here it says we're still missing 1 from a client, which is the one that where I've removed the date. If you collect too many, so if you, for argument's sake, send out 3 and get back 4, maybe you've entered something twice or you've done something funny, it'll flag here as being 1 over. Then you just need to address as to why you've got 1 over. Maybe you've sent something out. Maybe you've removed an appraisal that you need, and all of a sudden you've got it back and you've entered it anyway. But that you shouldn't have any in that over column. So here you can see we need 1 more. There it shows you an even further breakdown. So it shows you by department and by the type of appraisal. So this 1 person in management who's waiting a client appraisal back again. And then these are all the ones that are completed. So you can see how many are completed. And this just gives a question count from the 2 different sets of questions as to how many different questions there are in each one, and how many, what the weight of it is, in the sense that this is 8.3% of the questions. These are the last appraisals, number of questions, the current one. All of this will populate accordingly. That's just the information that you've got going out on your settings tab, so you can make sure that that's correct. So when we go to the appraisal results, for example, and we put that date in, now what actually happens if you go back to the dashboard is you can actually see now that it's all completed. Everything's completed, 100%, 100%, 100%, 100%, number completed, everything's okay. That's just the breakdown, and that these appraisal details, you just check that they're correct. They're not necessarily flagging up issues. It's just make sure that this is all as you would expect. So once that's all done, your dashboard's done, this means that you're now ready to actually go ahead and create some of the appraisals. The appraisals for each person, all you do is you just simply select the person you wish to view. It's as simple as that. And what it does is it tells you how many appraisals have come in, which one is this appraisal, what's the date of the last appraisal, if applicable, number of appraisals by type, And then it gives you a breakdown over here of self and others. So this is what the person thinks of themselves. That's what others think of them as a total. And that's what happened in the last appraisal. And then it gives you the overall scores per category for the current appraisal and the last. The last appraisal is always grayed out. The current one's always in white, so you can spot the difference quite easily. So here, for example, this person gave themselves a score this time of 74.8. Last time exactly the same. It should be the same as what we've got there. But what this one does is this one gives you a breakdown of all the different scores by category. Sorry. So it gives you a breakdown of all the different categories. So you can see, for example, that this one's role changed slightly from one to the other. This is just because I've used different question sets and things in order to accomplish that. So I meant to say, when you do select someone, you can have a look here and just see, do you have this appraisal? Do you have last? This is the settings to include the scores in the overall ones, which we chatted about for the settings tab. And this top gray section is the overall result. But if you actually scroll down, what happens here is that you've got all the different sections. So I've included overall in here because this is the same layout as the other, as role and productivity, etc. So these are all the overall scores, but then this is this layout, but with overall scores. So that's 76.2, 77, 76.8. What this means is Mr. Admin's score, this report was 76.2, last report 75.2. This is because I've said yes to include their score in there. If you said no to not include their score, then this score will be only made up of other people appraising them, not them appraising themselves. So you've got Mr. Admin's score, overall score. What was the personal score last appraisal? What's the department score this appraisal? What was the department last? And what was the company score this appraisal? What was their company score last time? So those ones will give you a breakdown of the overall compared to the person, compared to the department, and compared to the company. It will compare everyone else who's in that person's department. So if the person you've selected is in finance, it will compare everybody who's in finance, and this is a company-wide score. Plus, it gives you a breakdown of all the answers, because sometimes the answers might be weighted differently, etc. So this is basically saying that 32% of the answers that came back were the most positive answer. You can see that 7.3% of the answers that came back were the most negative answer. And then this one gives you a breakdown of the different who's appraised them, supervisor, peer, subordinate, etc., and which score they've got from each of those different people. And then as you scroll down, you get exactly the same thing. That's their overall score, 537 out of 705. But as you scroll down, this gives the same thing from roles. And you scroll down, this gives the same thing for productivity. And you scroll down, this gives the same thing for teamwork, etc. So you've got all those different reports, all those different sections. Each of these batches, basically that fit onto a screen, is each now a new category. So I'm not going to go through them again. The first one applies to all of these, that you can scroll down to see all the different categories, how they've done in each one. Here you can see, for example, that in adaptability self, they gave themselves quite a low rating last time, but quite a high rating this time. So you can see that they think that they've improved dramatically in this regard. So that's what those means. That's what those mean. You might get the occasional one for business. So for example, if this person hasn't been tested on business, then they just get a 0 out of 0. So there's no score. It will still show the company-wide score, because some people have had the business questions, but the person's been selected, their department doesn't get business questions. So the rest of it's all just blank. You scroll down right down to the bottom, the last page, it actually gives you an overview, so you can see productivity, teamwork, leadership. So the gaps are where they're not actually, so leadership, for example, in business are two areas where this person's not answering any questions. So you can see here on role, teamwork, leadership, productivity, etc., where they've compared, this appraisal in green, last appraisal in red. So they've actually come inwards towards the center of the circle here. So these three, role, productivity, and teamwork, they've dropped. These ones have actually improved, but analysis they've dropped, but learning, adaptability, writing, influence, etc., they've improved. So these are you can see the comparisons between the two. And if you scroll right down to this last section, this is actually just the best answers, good answers, average, poor, worst answers from this appraisal and the last appraisal. And you can see how many of each one they had. So you can see how many kind of different questions, different answers they got. Because remember, some of these might be weighted differently. So for example, someone might have got one bad question that was weighted extremely high and a whole bunch of good ones. So you can just see a breakdown here of how the questions were actually answered. And that is the staff appraisal. You can also, if you say view page break, you can drag these borders to the end of the white section there, and these will give you the page borders. So you can actually say file, save a copy onto your desktop or somewhere else and save it as a PDF. If you say file, save a copy, if you just change that there to PDF, then you can save this as a PDF and print it off or save it as a PDF, whichever one you prefer. So this is your staff appraisal, and you can just simply go and select whoever you wanted, and they will repopulate. You can see here, if I select Miss Admin, it changes accordingly. So that's the appraisal. The report is a company-wide report. So this one auto-populates. You don't even have to select anything on here. There's some alerts and warnings down here that will flag up as per the dashboard, but it'll tell you the first and second appraisal, how many number of appraisals you did, number of staff appraised, average number per appraisal. And then here you can see overall role, productivity, all those different categories, what the score was company-wide for each of them, and from last time and from this time. So you can see where you've improved overall as a company. And here you can have a look at your admin, finance, all your different departments, and how each of them have compared between last time and this time. I haven't done appraisals for all these departments. That's why some of them are blank. This is quite interesting. It's kind of like a heat map, but it's obviously just in a grid. You've got all your categories down the left and the departments across the top, and each one gives a score. So you can see where you've done well. So all the dark greens here, for example, you can see adaptability in finances is quite good. They're all green. You might have some yellow or red ones if they've got particularly bad. But if you were to then look and go, well, hang on, this one's quite low, for example. So your finances don't really understand their role. So you can see which departments and which categories are good or bad at a glance. And then the last thing are just those two sets of questions. So the first one is the last appraisal, and then the one below that is your current, is this appraisal, the current one, the most recent one. And you can see every single question, and they're ranked in order. So here you can see this is where we're the strongest as a company, and whatever this question relates to, that's where we as a company are the weakest. And you can have a look here again, the strongest and the weakest. So you can see all the different questions in order, ranked in order, and you can see how they actually compare with each other. So yeah, that's it. That's a company-wide report. These will both populate as you enter data, so you don't necessarily need to have all the data in for them to populate. That is why I've put this warning over here, and that is why I've put these little ticks and things over here to tell you that everything's done, because you can run these reports before you finish doing all of your data collection and everything, but obviously you just want to keep that in mind that they might not be accurate at that time. The dashboard will help you to kind of gather all the information together, and then the other two either for individuals or the company-wide report. So I hope that makes sense to you. Hopefully this video explains everything. If there's anything I've left out not clear and you have purchased this, please do let me know. And if you find any issues, please let me know. I can get those obviously fixed up. But yeah, I hope that this really helps you to be able to manage and to appraise your staff, and also to help them where they need help, and to develop them in the areas that they need to develop. And I wish you all the best. Thank you very much, and goodbye.